This is Gemara Baba Basra. Daf Lamid Ches. And we're holding on the bottom of Lamid Zayin Amid Beis. About 8 lines from the bottom. The first 2 words on the line are Ra'am Moicher. Moicher Bayin Ra'am Moicher. Amri Nahardai. They said in the Hardai. Achla Ritzufim. If someone lived in a field, Ritzufim, in consecutive years. But over here, we're not talking about years. We're talking about the aforementioned case of trees that he ate in Ritzufin. He ate trees next door to each other. Ein loy chazaka. He will not have a chazaka because what's going on over here? So the Rashbam, about 8 lines into the medium-sized line, says Achlam Ritzufin is referring to the 30 trees we had yesterday. For example, Shanatuin Tesvav Visa Ina Chazaka. Why not? Even if you eat all 30, for all 3 years. Why? Those are the critical words. Explains the Rashbam, because the trees are planted so closely together, they're not roi to stick around, and therefore, even though you ate 30 of them for 3 years, you not have a chazaka. Chazaka has to be made on an entity that is there to last. Maskiv la Rava, asked Rava, l'me'ata ha'imir shradis vasta. Asked Rava, based on the Yisai that you just said, that when things are planted too close together, you can't have a chazaka. Ha'imish desafta b'maikanal. How do you make a kinyan on a spasta, which the way that they used to do it is they would plant it very closely and then they would replant it at a later date. Elam Rava, so Rava disagrees. Machron ritzufim ein loy karka. Rava said if you sold the trees that were planted very closely together, you don't receive the land in between, because since the tree is going to be uprooted, therefore the fact that you utilize them doesn't mean that you're utilizing the karka, and therefore the usage of those trees will not give the buyer rights to the karka if they die to replant them, etc. Number Rav Zera argues in Rava Kitanoi. Says Rav Zera, that which Rava just said, Machor etzufim in loy karka, is a machlokes Tanoim as follows. Karem shanatu al pachas me'arba amos. If you have a vineyard planted in less than 4 amos of Shimon Aimerina Karem, Chamam Merizu Karem, Verayinas Aim Sign, we view the middle ones, Kilu Einon, as if they are not there. So Rava is going like the opinion of Shimon, that doesn't have the status of a Karen, whereas there is the Chachamim that disagrees. Continues the Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom, Amri Nahardai. A new topic. Says Nahardai, if you sell a decal to your friends, the buyer acquires the shpula tehuma, the dirt underneath it from the tree until the depths of the earth, meaning all the way down, that is owned by he that purchases the tree. We turn over to Lamechesam at Aleph and asks the Gemara, Maskiv la Rava, asks Rava, V'lei malei korkama derishka zvina lacha. But why can't the seller say, I only sold to you the way that korkama derishka is sold, the way that garden saffron is sold, which is what? I didn't sell it to you with any land, and therefore, once the tree dies, oiker korkima derishka vizil, uproot it and leave. Meaning, why do they say that he clearly gets land under the tree? Asks Rava. Maybe he only meant to sell it like they sell the saffron, and therefore once it dies, he can tell him, take it and get out of here. Elam Rava. So rather, Rava disagreed and says, Rava, we're talking about a case. When can we teach b'shem nahardai that you're going to get the land under the tree? That's only in a case when the seller included the land under the tree. Then you can say you included in the sale. But if not for that, you would have no taina. Amar le Mark Shisha Breder Rav Chisda Rav Ashi. 1 second. But if he did sell to him the way that Kurkuma Derishka, the saffron, is sold, meaning he didn't sell any land underneath him, what could the seller have done that the buyer is not going to be able to claim that the land is his? Meaning it's very nice in concept to say he didn't sell the land underneath it, but Lamaisa, he's using it for 3 years, and he's going to be making chazakah on the land. Answers and explains Rav Ashi 6 lines down. The seller could have protested, and he could have said he only owns the trees. He does not own the land underneath. If you're not going to say this, Hani Mashkanta Desura, the case of the Mashka Desura, the cause of double kesef. At the end of these years, the land goes back to the owner without any paying. He covers the shtar mashkanta. He eyes the shtar mashkanta farmer, and he says, I bought the land. He would have been believed. So Misakin Rabbanim Milsa, the Rabbanim had to create a takana. They say, does that make any sense? The Rabbanim created a matzav. As we've seen already, that built into all the Gedarim and all the rules of Chazaka is the way out, which of course is to create a Chazaka. So too over here says the Gemara, built in is the Chazaka, that yes, if he utilizes these trees, he's going to be able to have a chazaka on the land. So you should have been meicha, as we find the way to protest someone's eventual proof that the land is theirs is by making a macha. We continue with the Mishnah towards the bottom of Lamches Amid Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Shalosh Aratzos LeChazaka. There are 3 lands when it comes to Chazaka, Yehuda, Iver Yardin, Vagalil. What does that mean that there are 3 lands with regard to Chazaka? Explains the Mishnah. Haya Yehuda v'chzik begalil, begalil v'chzik Yehuda. Einay Chazaka. If the owner is not in the same location, if the owner is in Galil and the guy's making Chazaka on his field in Yehuda or vice versa, that's not a Chazaka. The owner has to be there in the same location where the chazaka is being made, and only then can it be considered a chazaka. Amr Rav Yehuda, Amru Shalosh Shanim, Baspamia, says Rav Yehuda, the 3 chazaka is only that if the owner was in Espamia, was in Spain, the Yachzik Shana, someone was in his field for a year, Yelchu, someone can go, V'yadu, and tell him Shana V'yavel Shana Acheres, and he can come back home. Meaning, says Rav Yehuda, disagrees on the Tanakama of the Mishnah. I don't care if you're not in the same city. The whole creation, says Rav Yehuda, of Shalai Shanim, is if Reuben is sitting in my field for a year and I'm mamish in a different place, someone will come and travel and tell me, someone's living in your house, and I'll have time to come back home. So argues Rav Yehuda that the chazaka is not true, that it's only going to be when he's in the same location. Says the Gemara, Maika Savar, what's going on with the Tanakama? If you can make a macha not in front of him, what's the difference if you're in the neighboring city? You gotta be mamish there. So Amar Rav Abba, Bar Mamel, Amar Rav, Savar, of course. Machash lo b'fanav is yes a macha v'macha. Mishnah seinu b'shaschirim shanu, and the Mishnah is talking about a different din. It's not a din of machash lo b'fanav. The din of the Mishnah is a shaschirim, a time of war, that between 2 cities they did not allow them to travel. And particularly in that situation is the reason why it's not a macha, because travel is barred between these 2 areas. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, Yehuda v'Galil did nakat. So why did the Mishnah choose Yehuda and Galil? If it's Stama Shaschirim, it's whatever there's hostility, whatever they don't allow travel, it's anywhere. Hakamash Malah, and explains the Gemara, you know why? As we turn over to Lamachasam and Beis, Because the Mishnah is teaching us Tistam Yudah v'Galil kishaschirim dami. Yehuda and Galil are places in which inherently are considered a shas chiram. Travel between them is never easy, and that is gufo what the Mishnah is coming to teach us. The Mishnah is teaching us a sidebar din that she'ina she'eretz mitzuya zulazu, says the Rashbam in the second line, and therefore you cannot create a chazak if someone's in the neighboring city. Amar Rav Yudah Marav in the second line of Lamachas Amid Beis, Ein machzikim b'nechsei b'reiach. You cannot create a chazaka in the nechasim of a b'reiach. What's nechsei b'reiach? Says the Rashbam on the second narrow line, Kaleimer. Im hechsek ein chazaka can farish vasa. The ksar machashal b'vanav la'avim macha. The kimun lo yachal imchais. Why not? Gam zayachal achsek. Rav Yehuda Sfir lei to Amr Mastis and Yachal v'yadiu shana v'yavel shana acheres. The master that tzarich limchais b'fanav. It's not going to work in this case in the property of a fugitive, someone that ran away. You can't make a macha in his property. He argued and said, why not? You don't have to make a macha in front of him. And therefore, who cares if the macha is made in front of him or not? Therefore, you could, yes, make a macha in the property of a bayreach. And as we'll see in a moment, what's going on over here is if someone is a bayreach, he's running away from the law. The question is, how can he come and protest? So says the Gemara, that's what Rav Yudah Marav says, that you can't make a chazak in his properties. Because the whole point of a chazaka, that the owner could come forth and say, no, what are you doing? This is mine. But if the guy can't come back for whatever its reason, then how can you make a macha in his place? On the other hand, Shmuel said, no. Wherever this fugitive is, he'll be able to make a macha there, and we'll hear about it. Says the Gemara, Rav Micah Mashmalan, and according to Rav, the first sheet, what's he teaching is machashal b'fanav lo havim macha. Does Rav hold that the macha has to be in his presence? But it's not true. So what is going on over here? Answers and explains the Gemara 7 lines down. Rav Taima Didana Didan Kamafarish V'leilos Firle. Rav is just explaining the time of our Mishnah. He doesn't actually hold that way. Second Rav, second lashon on the whole story. That what? The exact opposite. We can yes make a macha. We can yes, make a chazaka on the property of a bereach, someone that ran away. Can we come to Shmuel? Of course. Of course you can make a macha. Who cares that he ran away? You don't need to make a macha in front of him. So what was the chiddush? Was that his chiddush? He already said this. Why? That's what Shmuel held. How does Rav disagree? If you're making macha in front of someone, they can't travel. How could that be a good macha? Explains the Gemara. The Rav, you know what he held? Classic. Chavrach islay, chavrach islay. Very good that you can travel, but lamaisa, word of mouth will travel, and therefore they could make a macha and eventually hear about it regardless of location, regardless if they're able to come and not. So what's the halacha? 7 lines from the bottom. Amai Rava Hilchasa. Ein machzikim b'nechsei b'reiach. Number 1, you cannot make a chazaka. Number 2, machashal b'fanav is yes a macha. Says the Gemara, that's a stira. Tarti, how can you have both? If you can't make a macha b'fnei b'reiach, that means he has to be here. But if he has to make a macha shel b'fanav, so why can't you make a chazaka b'nechsei b'reiach? Like kasha kam b'reiach machmas mamoin kam b'reiach machmas mardin. Says the Gemara, the different reasons why one would run away. Depends if they run away because of money, whether they ran away because they're afraid of being killed. The Rashbam Tar 6 lines to the bottom spells out kan berech machmas mardin machos ersichas defanois nevashes. Someone runs away because he's afraid. He's being tried for murder. That person, Yari Limchais, he's afraid to even make a macha wherever he is. Why? Because maybe someone will find out where he is and the relatives will come. And they're going to kill him. That's when Rava said, when it's a bayreach machmas the fashes vachi elchasa. But if it's a bayreach machmas mamain, then the guy would not have a problem making a macha wherever he is, and therefore that would be the reason why Rava said macha shel b'fan of have macha. So the two statements could coexist. It could both coexist. Can't make a macha if it's a bayreach. Someone ran away because he's afraid of getting killed, because he will not even make a macha in the other place, even shlo b'fanav. Whereas yes, a macha shlo b'fanav it works by bayreach machmas mamain. We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmaya.